Right. Right.
And I'm like, that's farthest
Yeah,
away from
I was saying
anything I've
when
ever.
I do that now too, and it started when I lived in Texas because I felt like saying I'm from America would cause a lot of like, oh, so and this and that,
Right.
and more explanation.
Yeah.
Whereas if I say Texas, people are like, ooh, cowboys.
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
And I think California less like ooh cowboys, but it's like, oh, okay, yes, I know where that is. And
Although you also get with California people being like Baywatch, and you're like,
yes,
Well,
that is my life.
big state, big state.
Yeah, Baywatch is
Like I'm not from the Baywatch part of
Well,
California.
we'll sometimes say Los Angeles, because people know what Los Angeles is generally.
Ooh, we're live.
Yes, we're live. I'm sorry I sneaked that up on you.
It's okay. So Raj is dealing with his very cool new roof.
He's here, but he's got daughter sitting duties right now.
Oh, but he's not in the hangout.
So no, he is not in the hangout. He is monitoring from afar.
Is there anything that I need to do as a backup, or is it all fine? He just didn't need to be on mic.
Yeah, I'll try to do some screens if you can help me keep an eye on the little wrap up, move on things. I don't think he's going to be doing those because he'll be chasing his daughter around the house probably. So.
Well, that's easy enough.
My son started turning from his back
into a vampire.
A werewolf.
Almost from his back to his belly.
Oh, turning over. Cool.
Turning over, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Then
How
pretty
old
soon
is little Beja at this point? What are we talking? Like 2 months?
He's getting to 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's 4.5.
Not even new anymore.
Yeah, he's turning over. And
old man.
He's a teen.
He really likes doing it. But then once he's on his belly, he can't turn back to his back. And he gets really tired and frustrated. So it's the beginning of the never ending, like he's doing this, but then he gets angry. So you have to watch him and be wary of what he's doing. Like literally now he's sort of acquired the ability to move around through semi-rolling. And when he's in his crib, every other night he sleeps like not in the direction of the crib, but like he moves himself all the way to the top horizontally and like facing the top of the bed and like in the it's very weird.
You want to discourage that or he'll never walk. He'll just roll himself everywhere all his life.
That's my worry.
Can you imagine?
Wait till he starts teething.
Oh my God.
And I say this like I have children, which I do not, but I'm like, I just know that people are like, wait till they start teething.
I think teething is going to be pretty terrible, but the worst one is when he starts walking or crawling.
Then you gotta chase him out, chase after him.
But
yeah.
Walking,
all right.
okay. Yeah.
You guys ready to go?
I am ready.
You know the answer to that.
I do. You were born that way. Here we go. 3, 2, little monsters. 1. Daily Tech News Show is powered by you. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. This is the Daily Tech News for Tuesday, June 12th, 2018 in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, I'm Sarah Lane.
And from the Finnish offices, I'm Patrick Beja.
The Finnish offices. I love that. That's great.
Not finished.
Yeah.
Simply finish.
That was my joke.
And both.
And on the basketball team in high school, the coach would say, Merritt, you finish? And I'd be like, no, I'm Swedish.
Oh, my God.
Are
I'm
you?
going to remember that for my son so my dad jokes can be on point.
Yeah, totally. Hey, Roger Chang, our producer, is producing the show today, but he's also chasing his daughter around the house or something. He's on child watching duty, so he is not in the show with us here. But hi, Roger. We know you're out there. Let's start with a few tech things you should know.
Let's do it. Starting with Instagram. Instagram shoppable tags will start appearing in stories. So, like in the main feed, tapping the shopping bag sticker leads to more details and the option to purchase various things that you see in a photo.
Interesting. Nintendo announced Super Smash Bros. Ultimate will arrive December 7th. Super Mario Party with multi-Switch gameplay comes out October 5th, and Fortnite is available for free for the Nintendo Switch. It will support cross-play with Xbox One, PC, Mac, and mobile, but not PS4, which, by the way, is leading to weird things like you can't link an account to your Switch if you've already linked into your PS4 and vice versa. That is shady.
Yeah, people are mad about that. Tesla CEO Elon Musk sent a memo to his staff announcing the company would lay off more than 3,000 workers. That's 9% of its workforce. Actually, I have that in reverse. He said we're going to lay off 9%. And that estimate is that's about 3,000, a little few, more than 3,000. It's an effort to cut costs. Musk said the layoffs are almost entirely in salaried positions, so they should not affect Model 3 production. Musk previously pledged that Tesla would reach sustained profitability by Q3.
So nobody who works on the Model 3 is a salaried employee?
Well, the factory floor staff are probably waged employees. Yeah.
The party is over.
Where it's just beginning. La Liga, the Spanish soccer league, has admitted its app accesses the microphone and GPS data of Android users. La Liga argues it asked for consent at the point of install or update, and that the microphone data it's receiving is code, not actual audio, and that the data is used to prevent illegal streaming of matches, something that the organization says costs, 150 million euros per year. So the App Store has been downloaded, the app in the App Store has been downloaded 10 million times and was updated with the functionality on June 8th.
So if you don't allow for the microphone access, people can stream to their heart's content.
Also, I love how they're like, yes, we got your conversation, but it's just code.
Yeah.
We don't hear you as divulging private secrets. We just hear code.
Yeah. We just don't want to make sure you're not a pirate.
That's crazy. DRM, it never causes any problems. Let's talk a little bit more about a light of hope for me as far as standards go, Patrick.
DigiTimes reports that analog integrated circuit vendors told it that Apple is considering switching from Lightning to USB-C in its 2019 iPhone and iPad releases. Apple Insider notes a report in May suggested Apple might ship a USB-C charger with iPhones this year, but that would come with a Lightning to USB-C cable.
Now, my first
as a person with many dongles, I'm
Yes.
like, ugh, I've already solved this problem.
Yeah.
But it wasn't without headache.
I have many devices with USB-C. I have a Pixelbook. I have an Essential phone. I have a Nintendo Switch. I have a MacBook Pro. They all have USB-C. If I want to plug in my iPhone, I can't because it doesn't have USB-C. And it's got to the point where I look at it and I'm like, that just seems silly. Like USB-C is about the same size. There can't be that many advantages to the proprietary port anymore. They ought to just switch. So this report gives me hope. But also out today is an article from Robert Triggs over at Android Authority talking about all of the downsides of USB-C, particularly that fast charging doesn't work the same way on all the cables and all the devices. Data compatibility is confusing. If you're trying to use it to carry HDMI or Ethernet, sometimes it won't work. It depends on whether the port is activated for that. All of these concerns are real. I don't think they are that different from USB-A, but it's that USB-C purports to say you won't need to think about cables anymore. It'll just be the one cable for everything.
It seems like this problem, while real, and he's not the first person to mention it, it could be solved relatively easily with some kind of labeling or uniformization, or it's not impossible to solve. And I still think USB-C is probably the right way to go.
Yeah, I hope that DigiTimes doesn't have a great record. Let's just be honest about predicting things accurately. We often say like, oh, this person has a really great. This DigiTimes does not. They're less than 50-50. So this may end up just being a bunch of hogwash. But I brought it up because of my desire to want it to be true. And I think what will likely be true is that the iPhones that come out later this year will come with a USB-C charger wall wart. So the cable you get in the box would be USB-C to Lightning instead of USB-A to Lightning like it is right now.
Oh, interesting. Because I would say at this point, anybody who has a newer iPhone and has to plug into their MacBook or whatever, it's like, we've figured it out. You can daisy chain it. Like there are dongles. But the fastest charging is what I always want.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. Fastest.
Brad Sams at Throt.com says he has viewed content that shows Microsoft plans to release the next Xbox console, codenamed Scarlet, in 2020. Microsoft apparently describes Scarlet as a family of devices. So the speculation is, well, maybe this won't be just a console. Maybe it'll be a number of different kinds of consoles. Who knows? Sams also says Microsoft's targeting Q1 2019 to release the next version of the HoloLens, HoloLens version 3, codenamed Sydney. It's expected to just be lighter, have improved displays, and cost significantly less. So nothing surprising on the HoloLens front, except that, we might see it in Q1. We don't know if it'd be a developer version or a consumer version. But what do you think of the idea of the Xbox, first of all, coming soon? 2020 is not that far down the road as consoles go, Patrick, but also being a family of devices.
Well, Microsoft did mention that they were working on their next console in the E3 press conference. So that is probably a little hint that it's not super far off. Working on it, they want to turn the page on this generation. They have sold a lot less than Sony. They're in an unfavorable position. They want to move along. The family of console thing could mean anything. So I'm not going to speculate too much. It is consistent with the idea that Microsoft wants the Xbox to be multi-form. They already have their games on the Xbox One X, and on PC. So it wouldn't surprise me that something like a family of consoles would be in their plans.
Yeah, it could be something as boring as just, there's a 4K version and an HD version or something like that.
Yeah, maybe not HD, but
deep red in color. Why else call it Scarlet?
Or Black Widow.
For that. Vivo announced its new phone NEX, which it claims, quote, fulfills the bezel-less dream. Okay. Like Vivo's Apex phone that we saw at CES, the NEX has a pop-up selfie cam, so that means no notch. Vivo also uses screen soundcasting to replace the earpiece's speaker and an in-screen fingerprint sensor. The screen-to-body ratio is 91.24% due to a very slight chin at the bottom. Maybe we could call it a receding chin. I don't know. Beyond the 6.59-inch OLED display, it has a Snapdragon 845 processor, 8 gigs of RAM, 4,000 milliamp battery, 256 gigs of storage. Will be available in China for 4,998 won, which is about US $780.
91.24 is not entirely full screen.
It's pretty darn close, though.
Pretty close.
It's close. It's close, but it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 10% still not screen. I'm just saying.
But yeah, I know what you're saying. It's the biggest yet, and at least it is a almost bezel-less phone, unlike the ripoff that we got from earlier this month. I think was it Lenovo that was like, it's going to be a bezel-less phone, and it turned out it had a notch.
It was, it was Lenovo.
Yeah. I don't know about the bezel-less dream. I don't know if that was something I was that.
Are we all wanting the bezel-less dream? Like, is this something that people are like, once we get rid of that bezel completely, we're really in business?
It's sexy. It is sexy. It looks nice.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
It's kind of that form factor that you just want to be achieved.
I wouldn't call it a dream. Valve announced its plans to launch Steam in China in partnership with Shanghai-based Perfect World. Steam is accessible in China on an unofficial basis, but recently some portions of the service were blocked. Partnering on an official launch will let Valve avoid blocks and better localize and promote the service. Valve did not say how it will handle approving games for launch on its Chinese service and did not announce a launch date.
Yeah.
China is a big market for games, and they are very PC skewed. So I think Valve is looking at China with very big dollar signs in their eyes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. On the other hand, Valve also just made a big deal of how it's not going to curate content in its store anymore. That's not going to fly in China. And maybe that's the role of Perfect World, perhaps, is Perfect World decides what goes into the store. Steam just provides the infrastructure for it. I don't know.
Yeah, they're not the first ones to partner with a Chinese company.
Oh, no, that's the standard. Actually. Yeah.
Exactly. It's legally mandated that, so.
In fact, even outside of gaming, most tech companies are partnering with Chinese companies just to make regulations easier.
Right.
Things like data storage and stuff like that. All right. Journalists at the summit in Singapore between the United States and North Korea were given a USB-powered fan as part of a gift bag from Singapore's communications ministry. The bag also included water and a guidebook. It was hot in Singapore, so this all makes sense from that perspective. Temps were reaching 33 degrees Celsius. That's about 91 Fahrenheit. Almost every security researcher on the planet cried out at once, though, don't plug that into your laptop, after reporter Harold Dornbos tweeted a picture of the device because, hey, you know what people do with USB? They embed malware in it and then hand them out for free, hoping you'll plug it into your computer.
Are you dying of heat exhaustion? Here, have this malware.
This malware will cool you right down.
It's funny because it's exactly the kind of thing that you don't really see coming until someone tells you, and then you're like, holy poop, I was so dumb to do it. Like,
yeah, because you're tired and hot, and you're like, oh yeah, I absolutely want to have that fan. Now, here's what I would say: if you're someone who travels a lot and you get a lot of these USB devices as swag, I'm not sure that everybody does, but if you're like, I would like to have the option to use that micro fan without getting malware, $3, you can get yourself a little power-only extension cable that allows you to plug anything into your computer, and it gets powered, but it won't transfer any data.
Yep.
That's just good advice if you're a Singapore journalist.
Or a journalist. Yeah.
or a tech journalist
or anyone.
Yeah.
Anyone really.
Don't time you get a free USB device. Think again.
Yeah. It's like you don't get into the car of someone you don't know who stops in the streets and offers to give you a ride.
Stranger danger for a USB.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Strange USB danger.
All right, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to Daily Tech Headlines, available on the Anchor app and on the Amazon Echo and the Google Home, and, of course, at dailytechheadlines.com. E3, of course, about to start, which means it's almost done as far as the announcements. Like, did the doors open today? Is that right?
I think it's today.
For the conference, yeah.
And the press meetings and briefings started on Saturday already. So for journalists around the world who aren't at E3 physically present, it's done. We already know everything we want to know.
Well, Patrick's going to take us through some of the highlights. What were the standout moments of the E3 press season so far?
So I've selected 3 different little topics, which aren't necessarily the gamer-centric topics, but I figured the DTNS audience might be interested in those. If you want gaming specific, we'll talk about that later. There are other avenues. But the first one is the fact that both EA and Microsoft have announced they are working on a streaming service, video game streaming service, which we've mentioned here with Shadow and OnLive and over the years many times. Ubisoft president Yves Guillemot also mentioned that he believes this technology will be major in the next few years. And this is interesting in itself already, because that's a technology that is developing, and we've been around it many times in the tech industry. But also, it has a really unexpected consequence for developers and publishers. If these technologies do take off and the infrastructure allows many gamers to enjoy them in the next few years, that means that developers don't really need console manufacturers anymore. The console manufacturers are kind of the gatekeepers right now. You have to be on their console, on their publishing platform, in order to reach your customers, the gamers. If you have your own streaming service, then of course you need the infrastructure, but you don't need to go through the very expensive and complicated business of manufacturing a device and selling it to a consumer. You can just embed your app in a TV or an app platform or TV box, and you have access to your customers straight away. And that seems like a huge motivator for big publishers to go ahead and try to develop this. It makes things immensely more easy for them.
Yeah, I could see where Microsoft and Sony can say, like, well, we'll just become streaming service providers, right? Sony already does it, and Microsoft's doing it. That then we'll still have that curation aspect, and we can still get exclusives on our stuff. But EA can say, well, why would we need that?
Yes.
As long as we can make our streaming service apps available on the general platform, that's less development time than having to make multiple versions of each game, I would think. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But instead of saying, oh, well, now we have to make a PC version and an Xbox version and a Sony version and a Nintendo version, you just make one version and put it on your own streaming service.
And it looks amazing no matter your hardware. And it even goes farther. We've seen Capcom in Japan experimenting with streaming for individual games, meaning instead of selling you a game, they rent you the access to this for a cheaper price for a few months, and they can have that available on any platform. We've seen Resident Evil 7 available on the Nintendo Switch, which is not powerful enough to run that game, and it's just a 50 megs download, and you stream the game from their service.
Now, at the high end, let's just say the esports end, right? That's the end that pays the most attention.
That's not going to work.
That's not going to work. So does that influence developers to say, well, we really want to be part of that esports crowd because that gets us a lot of promotion and status and brings in money? I guess we should still make it for platforms.
It depends how it's going to evolve. I think it's still a little bit murky at this point. Infrastructure might evolve that so that it's possible. A side note, it's not exactly the same thing, but EA also announced the Origin Premier Access, which is basically a subscription service similar to the Microsoft Xbox Game Pass. You pay them a certain amount, and you have access to the entire library of games, just like a streaming service, except you install the games on your device. That's on PC for EA at the moment. A lot of people have been saying, oh, another subscription service, that's how many do we have to pay for? But if you're a core gamer, let's say you buy one game a month. One game a month is $60. Let's say those services are $10 a month. You could subscribe to 6 of them, or let's say 5 of them, and save $10 a month and have access to all of the games of all those publishers, because that's how they work. So I think a lot of people are underestimating the value of those services for core gamers who buy a lot of games.
Well, if you compare this to cord cutting for, I don't know, Roku's and Apple TVs and what have you, if you in a similar vein, it's like, well, services like Netflix have original content, right? Or Hulu or Amazon or I don't know.
Or HBO, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's not really hardware, specific, and it hasn't been for some time. And I think the gaming world is trying to navigate how that works.
Yeah.
Because then at this point, as you're mentioning, Patrick, it's like, okay, well, if you kind of make the same game, you can play it on a lot of different devices. Then it turns into like, what's the best hardware device? And then it turns into a conversation of, well, I don't know. I mean, what is the best? Is it price? Is it the layout? Is it, all of these things that I know I think about when I'm looking at content.
On the one hand, it sheds a little light on the idea that Microsoft might have a family of devices, because maybe they'll have some Roku-like versions. Like, you just want to stream? Here you go. Buy this version of the Xbox. But I think what you're about to bring up, Patrick, might also be a reaction to this idea.
Well, Microsoft announced that they are going to, well, they have actually purchased a lot of studios because the big drawback of the Xbox this generation has been exclusive games. They haven't produced enough compared to the PlayStation to make the system appealing to many gamers. And that's why they've been falling behind sales-wise. So they've purchased 5 studios. This is like the crazy shopping list. The problem is it's probably not going to have an effect this year and maybe not next year, but this is absolutely what Microsoft needed to do, especially if we're heading into a future where streaming services are the norm. Maybe not now, maybe not 5 years from now, but 10 years from now, they need a library of game that is exclusive and appealing to gamers.
Or if it's not exclusive, they get all the money from it. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So this is a really big deal, and it shows a commitment for Microsoft to gaming. And the last one I wanted to mention is, I mean, there are many things that we could talk about, but Sony showcased The Last of Us Part 2 in their press briefing. And last time they showed it, a lot of criticism was leveled at the game in the way it portrays violence. The game was extremely violent in a visceral and, quite frankly, disturbing way. People noted that and weren't necessarily happy about it. So you might have thought that Naughty Dog, the developer behind The Last of Us, would maybe dial it back a little bit. Well, they kind of doubled down on it. And the gameplay footage they showed was extremely violent in a way that is somewhat disturbing even for gamers, which leads to an interesting point of reflection. Games, there have been violent games forever, and in many games you walk around and blow up zombies and kill enemies and spray blood all over the place.
Right, yeah. Run over people, you know.
Exactly.
Guns,
but it never feels, I don't want to say it doesn't feel real, but it doesn't impact you at all. You don't think about it.
It's a game. Yeah.
Right, it's a game. This one pushes it in so far in this specific way that it kind of artistically seems like, we'll have to see how the game actually turns out and the context and all of this, but artistically it makes the person experiencing this game kind of revile the idea of being the vector of that violence.
I know. I know. No spoilers. I know it's it's a game. It's a little different than movies, but how does that happen? Because I think a lot of the argument, that people are saying like, oh, games are violent, making kids violent, is that it takes away that sort of empathetic part of you that might feel this way, which is what you're describing.
Yeah. So I think well, that's philosophical, or maybe I'm not necessarily qualified to talk about this specifically, but I think you don't consider it violent because you understand it's a game. In this one, it's artistically and the way it's brought to you, it's a game, but it still feels like you don't want to do it. It's the best way I can describe it.
Okay.
Even though it's zombies, right?
It's in this case it was against humans. The game also has zombies, but here it's humans, and it's portrayed very. They are very talented developers, so it's very skillfully portrayed in a way that makes you feel. So you don't necessarily want to do it, and so because of that, if you have to do it. You have to do it, you do it because you really have to, which is a very interesting gaming experience, which I don't think we've ever really had. And we'll have to see where it goes. But it's, how can I put it? I guess it's an interesting way of creating this piece of art to get you into the experience of what inflicting violence actually is, as opposed to doing it as a game for fun. So that was a really interesting
that is fascinating.
Yeah.
Very much so. Good stuff from E3. Ever
Yeah.
thought-provoking anyway. Hey, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You help us choose our stories and figure out a little bit more of what you like to see. Submit stories and also vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. If you prefer Facebook, or if you want to hang out in both places, all good with us. Facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow.
You can even send us the email and we'll open them and read them sometimes on the show.
True story, Tom. In fact, Rob, who describes Australia right now as pleasantly wintry, has some thoughts on our Airbnb Japan story from last week, which is probably fitting because I think there's a lot of cross travel that goes on between the two countries. Rob says, I'm heading to Tokyo next week, booked an Airbnb 4 months ago. I've been communicating with the host in the last month. It's all fine. And they said there was no cause to worry. Everything was going to be certified before my trip. I woke this morning to 3 emails and a text message from Airbnb saying my reservation had been canceled. Cannot get a response from the host at this point. Airbnb refunded my money, though, gave me a voucher equal to the cost of my original rental to apologize. I booked one of the 7 remaining certified Tokyo Airbnbs available during my stay because, of course, they're waning. And with the voucher, I ended up saving about $30 Australian bucks per night compared to my canceled booking. Airbnb also gave me a US $100 voucher for an experience which I'm using for a walking food tour.
Nice.
All in all, Rob says, really stressful, sucked. The host was lying, or at least it seemed that way to Rob. But kudos to Airbnb for essentially doubling my refund and giving me an extra experience for free.
Oh, well, it's a story that usually would end up with them vilifying the company. But instead, they're like, wow, company did good. Well, good job, Airbnb.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, enjoy your walking tour. Let's hear about it when you're done.
And then Nathan wrote in and said, I've had the pleasure of volunteering with the Able Gamers. They're a nonprofit that works to encourage game developers to include accessibility in their design process. They also help develop controllers for people with specific needs. According to their blog, they have been working in secret with Microsoft to develop the Xbox Adaptive Controller. Whenever I have the money or time, I always throw support their way. Their founder is very approachable. Maybe he'd even be willing to come on DTNS and talk more about the details of the controller. Thank you, Nathan, though. You can go check it out, ablegamers.org.
And we've talked about Able Gamers, as far as certain accessibility settings on the show before. So, yeah, very cool. Thanks to everybody who writes in, participates in our subreddit, but also extra special thanks to Patrick Beja, who was not here last Tuesday. So it's so nice to have you back. What's been going on?
Well, E3 has been going on. This has been a little bit crazy. We usually cover the conferences live with our good friend Scott Johnson. And if you're interested in gaming, we actually did a wrap-up episode of our Boop and Pixels shows. You can find it on the Pixels feed and on the Boop feed. So if you want to know exactly what happened, what we thought, hour and 45 minutes of gaming, go check out the Pixels Boop episode. And we are going to try to do a DTNS Labs games before the end of the week. It will be a shorter, like 20-30 minutes highlights of the conference. But if you want the full thing, Pixels is the way to go. So go check that out at frenchspin.com or just look for Pixels on your podcast app.
Excellent. Hey, you know what keeps us being able to all do this? Patreon.com/DTNS. That's the place where we get the majority of our support. And big thanks to everybody who supports us. We're always looking to have at least one more patron than the month before, and that could be you. You could be the hero that gets us over the line at patreon.com/DTNS. And also don't forget, we've got Born Ready t-shirts, the official slogan of Patrick Beja that you could wear on your chest. I've seen them in real life. They look great. And if you want to pick one up, you go to dailytechnewsshow.com/store and you could make one yours. It would show up in your home and you'd put it on your body and wear it and feel like as cool as Patrick.
Any feedback, questions, all sorts of good stuff, send them our way. We love to hear what you think. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 20:30 UTC. If you can join us live, great. Find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
We'll be back tomorrow with special guest Charlotte Henry. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Patrick, they're saying you should model the Born Ready t-shirt in the store.
I would say so.
Good
yeah, a
idea.
little 360 thing. You know?
I've gained a little bit of weight, though, since the kid was born, so I don't know if I would be comfortable.
Hey, just go up a size. It's fine. That's what
Modeling
sizes
is a
are
big
for.
responsibility, I guess.
It's true. It's true. A judge ruled that AT&T can indeed buy or merge with Time Warner.
Time Warner, that broke?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes,
get ready for DirecTV HDBO.
yay. Well, I am a Spectrum user. That's Time Warner's internet
Guys, sorry, I
service.
think the baby just woke up, so I'm
Oh
gonna
no! All
try
right.
and
Thank you,
Well, hopefully-
Patrick.
Hopefully
Thank
it
you
wasn't
very
already
Good work on the E3 coverage, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, really good.
thanks.
Good to see you. See you next week.
See you next week.
Okay. Bye.
So, title suggestions here. Have this malware.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
The Sound of Piracy. And
What's the
Patrick's.
sound of piracy?
I guess it's the fan going.
I mean, I want to get it. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I like here. Have this malware.
Yeah, I like
Here.
that one. That's
This
good.
malware.
Yeah.
You'll be a fan.
I also like how you danced around what the summit was like about.
dance. I can't.
Singapore.
I can't dance.
No, you're right. You weren't dancing.
No, I just didn't
No,
feel
but
like that was. that,
yeah,
if
that
you
wasn't
start
the
talking
point
about
of the
Kim
story.
Jong Un, it
Right.
just takes away. Like all the focus
story
goes
isn't
there.
like, well, you know, because it was North Korea.
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
You know, like exactly. No,
It's like, first of all,
it was nicely done.
The Ministry of Singapore gave these out. I'm not saying they're safe,
Sure.
but it wouldn't be because of
Right.
that.
Yeah. It was the host.
My fear is less about North Korea. It's more about where'd they get these? You know, like is the factory that made
Yeah.
these?
Where'd they come from?
Because how many times have we done stories in the past 10 years where like, ooh, some totally legitimate factory had their manufacturing process hacked and were embedding malware on their products accidentally? Like that's happened before. So.
Sure. Exactly. Yeah. It's not necessarily nefarious on the part of the company who gave you the free.
Yeah, exactly. Well, good. I'm glad
yeah.
you liked my dance.
I did. Good dance. You're a great dancer.
Oh, stop.
Talking about.
That's not what my sister says.
I'm a terrible dancer. Really, just very bad.
I'm actually a tiny dancer.
All right. I'm a private dancer.
Dancer for money. What?
Hey, listen, I didn't make it up.
It's just the way the song goes.
Yeah, it's just, that's what I'm doing. Just getting money.
You got
Although, you know what? I was actually thinking about that
Cat's gotta
song
eat
the other
something.
day.
What?
I was thinking about that song the other day because, so Tina Turner, okay, love Tina Turner. Wonderful, wonderful.
Sure. No,
I
just
did not know the Tina and Ike Turner because that was before my time.
Okay.
So it was like I knew her as a early 80s, solo artist.
Right.
And all that other stuff I kind of like.
And it'd been a few years since she had a big album at that point. So
Yeah.
at a certain age, you just wouldn't know,
You just wouldn't know. Yeah.
Big wheels keep on
that was all
turning,
something
right.
that I learned later. Like, oh man, she's been
Yeah.
around for a while. Like, I had some pretty tough times. But Private Dancer, again, because it was like, I don't know, what's that, 1983, 84 when that song came out? In
Yeah.
the video, because in the days, of these videos, we're all watching MTV. It's like, it's like a man and a woman just kind of, dancing the way you would at a school dance. So I was like, oh, it's like a private dancer.
Oh, yeah. She
And they're
just goes over
paying
to,
her, but it's it's real nice. And
just
kinda
come over to my
boring.
house so we can, dance.
Yeah, but like among other people, and like it's all very above board. And I heard it on the radio the other day, and I was like, "Ow! Oh my goodness! Why did they make that
Not
video?
what that song's about at
Not what
all.
it's about at all." Yeah, like why would they give you money otherwise? Like that's not the private dancing you're doing. But so
Nobody pays you just to dance.
But it's one of those things where it's like, as a little kid, I was like, I don't really understand what private dancers are. Maybe some people want that.
No, it's funny. When you're a kid, you just make up the most innocent explanation. That's why I always use the 5-year-old test. If I say something that may be on the edge, I'm like, if I'm 5, what do I think about it? And if I think something innocent, then it's fine. Because the other one is Florence Nightingale's "Lead Me On." Was my favorite song when I was 6 years old. I love that song. And I remember walking around the house singing it, right? And then I, grow up, listen to the words. I'm like, oh, that is a sexy song. Like, I can't imagine how much my parents must have been cracking up as their little 6-year-old boy is like, lead me on.
Right. Yeah. There are a lot of songs like that where I'm like, it's not that I'm that clueless. It's just that, like, whatever you thought at a certain age, you just never really revisited it again. Yeah. Yeah.
It's right up there with mishearing the words and not realizing what the real words are. Like those two things are hand in hand.
Exactly.
And there was that book of misheard lyrics called "Excuse Me While I Kiss This Guy," which is the Jimi Hendrix lyrics misheard.
Right.
Ever since that book came out, I don't remember any of my own misheard lyrics. I just think of that.
I've got a few. I've definitely got a few. Of course, now I can't think of any. We already talked about Manfred Mann in a Good Day Internet a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Which is funny because it's like, deuce, got it. Everybody makes the joke about the other thing. But I didn't know until we talked about it 2 weeks ago that it was revved up, not wrapped up.
Revved up like a deuce.
Yeah, I thought it was wrapped up, and I'm like, I just don't know.
Well, there's
what
multiple
a deuce is or why you'd wrap it.
There's multiple levels on that one too, because a deuce could be a reference to poop. Don't mean to get.
I've got a good one. Speaking of, not speaking of poop.
Just so you know,
it's not about poop. When I was so Prince's song "Little Red Corvette," I thought it was duet Corvette.
Like two people.
Because it was Corvette? "Baby, you're much too fast. We're a duet. It's the two of us." And I remember
Stop
my
singing
mom
so fast. I can't keep up.
Like, duet Corvette, just so you know.
There's two of us in the Corvette.
Yeah, like it made sense. Like, it was like a
two-seater.
It was a love song. And I was like, "Little Red Corvette? What in the heck?" I'm not singing this song anymore.
Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, when that song was brand new, I'm pretty sure I didn't know it said Little Red. I think I just was like, it's a Corvette. Like, I'm like, I don't know what he's saying.
Something Corvette.
Yeah, exactly. Something Corvette.
Yeah.
But I think
I thought it was duet Corvette. And I actually, when I hear the song now, which is not that often, I still hear it that way. I know what it says, but it still is duet Corvette to me.
Do you think the internet has ruined that because you can look up the lyrics?
Yeah, I do.
Because one of the most recent ones is not the most recent Taylor Swift album, but the one before. She had a song where it sounded like she was saying "go to the Starbucks" or something, and it was because she was mashing up a bunch of other words fast.
Well, what was she actually saying? Not go to the Starbucks?
No, it was nothing about Starbucks. It was get back together or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
And she said even her mom thought would sing along and sing the Starbucks line, and she was like, "Mom, that's not what I'm saying there."
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, I will say that Rap Genius. Well, now it's just Genius. I do use that often to be like, what are they saying? Because it's always there for every song you've ever thought of. It's in there somewhere.
Which is?
Just if you look at genius.com, you look for a song. All the lyrics are there. Or, Google Play lyrics or whatever. It's not hard to find lyrics anymore. But yeah, back in the day, you just were like,
yeah,
I think I know what it says. It's fine.
Blank Space by Taylor Swift. The line is, got a long list of ex-lovers, and everyone thought it was all the lonely Starbucks lovers.
What?
But listen, if you listen to it, it sounds like she's saying the word Starbucks in there.
Perhaps
she's like,
they're not mutually exclusive.
got a long list of ex-lovers. Like, I'm enunciating it more than she does in the actual list.
Did Taylor Swift date John Mayer, or I'm just confusing that with somebody else?
I have no idea.
Okay, well, John Mayer, you know who he is.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he's crooner.
He's the one who taught me that my
Fathers and
body
Daughters
is a
songs.
wonderland.
That too. So he apparently is really good friends with Andy Cohen. And
the Bravo talk show host,
of
right?
Bravo fame, yeah.
Of St. Louis, by the way.
St. Louis, and Watch What Happens on Bravo. And you know how it's all the rage right now for the podcast host to have like the other person interview them.
Okay, yeah.
You know, like Mark Maron interviewed Terry Gross, and you know, so on and so on. John Mayer interviewed Andy Cohen on Watch What Happens on a recent episode, it was actually, he did a really good job. And I like Andy Cohen, so I was interested, but I was like, this is the weirdest thing ever. Like, does John Mayer have nothing else to do? Like, he obviously had to like do a bit of prep. You know, he didn't just sit down and like, you know, just be like, okay. It was, you know, it was like a whole hour of stuff.
Do you think we could get him?
John Mayer or Andy Cohen?
No, John Mayer.
Why not?
To interview us.
Yeah.
John, would you like to come on to Daily Tech News Show and interview Sarah and myself?
Which gaming hardware body is your wonderland, Mr. Mayer?
No, that'd be you asking him a question. He has to ask us the questions.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he could. Just drill down a little bit more about why little Tom liked Florence Nightingale so much.
I could just see it like, so what is this show about?
Right.
That's the first question I have.
Yeah. What is it that you do?
And people listen to that. Interesting. Why do you think that is?
And I would say, Mr. Mayer, welcome to my life. What I always tell people is when they go, oh, that's so, what do you do? Oh, I host a tech show, a daily, weekdays tech show, among other things. They go, oh, that's so cool. What's it called? And I say, Daily Tech News Show. And it's exactly what it sounds like.
I know. I'm going to figure out a better way to do it.
That's cool. And sometimes they're like, but what is it about? And I'm like,
It's a daily show about tech news.
It's really about that, but fun.
Yeah. It's not like the barbecue place that's actually a dance club. Like, it really is a daily tech news show.
It's a daily tech news show. Yeah. I mean, the best one, obviously, but that's what it is.
Yeah, I have caught myself
like read the between the lines of the
I've caught myself with people saying like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I do a daily show about tech news, and they're like, what's it called? I'm like, oh crap, I've worked myself into a corner now. It's called Daily Tech News Show. Almost all the words I just said I'm saying again in a slightly different order.
And maybe, I don't know, Tom, if you agree with me or anybody who's watching or listening, it's like sometimes I get weirdly bashful about describing what I do for work for no reason.
Yeah.
People are like, what do you do? And sometimes I'm like, I'm a producer. And I'm like, why don't I brag about it more? Like, it's like, I want you to listen or, the show or whatever. But it's like, sometimes there's like a funny thing about sometimes talking about what you do for.
I have that too, because you don't want to feel pushy.
Right.
Like, oh, let me tell you all about me.
Right. Yeah. Or you kind of like, I often, if someone's like, oh, I'm a nurse, you're like, oh, that's cool. Like, do you work in the ICU? Or, like there's some follow-up questions, but you're like, I got it. When I talk about what I do, it's like, you either kind of get like the blank stare of like, I don't understand what you're talking about. Or like a lot of follow-up questions. Like, well, where is it?
Yeah.
What channel is it on? Oh, that's cool. Are you on
like
camera?
Radio?
Yeah. Like where's your student? Like all, so sometimes I'm just like, I mean, I'll answer, but like
I do things.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, we have other things that we got to get on to. So thank you, folks,
story.
for watching on the video. We hope you have a lovely day.
We sure do.
See you tomorrow.